Slither in Slime by Rotheads is a record that is first and foremost invested into some sort of shady occultism, if you want, and actually very few bands manage to get to the general level of darkness that is being displayed in this kind of music. And what is being approached on this particular record is an aspect of dread, where dread is being presented as some sort of a gateway towards an ecstatic experience. And when I say ecstatic experience, I am making reference to a specific state of mind that is aesthetically similar but also somehow different from the ecstatic state that you can access by means of intense religious devotion, or by means of intoxication with mushrooms, if you want, or by means of dark sexual rituals, sometimes also involving the dead ones. Again, these are metaphorical and allegorical statements. They are not meant to be taken a la lettre, God forbid. But anyways, what I hold in my hand is the latest release by Rotheads called Slither in Slime. It was released into the summer of 2022 for the Spanish label Memento Mori. And all of the songs in here basically cultivate the dread and the mania alike. The mania to go deeper and deeper into a certain state of mind, but not just any state of mind, but some really weird and atypical state of mind, such as parasomnia or nigredo. Nigredo in alchemy, nigredo denoted blackness, and it was the kind of blackness, nigredo was the kind of blackness that was worshipped by alchemists, and it meant purification through putrefaction and decomposition. And many alchemists believed that as a first step in the pathway to the philosopher's stone, all alchemical ingredients had to be cleansed and baked and heated in an expansive manner until you obtain the uniform, all-powerful and all-empowering black matter. And the message of the music in here is that in a similar way we need to do things with a person's emotions and various psychological states of mind. A person's various emotions and various psychological states of mind have to be baked and heated and cleansed until you obtain an all-engulfing black pasta or black matter that can lead to some sort of purification through decomposition, or purification to putrefaction, the pure essence of putrefaction or of decomposition, again called nigredo in alchemy, the first step towards the philosophical stone. Why? Because this kind of a nigredo also entails a lot of mania, yeah? And when you combine mania with dread, what happens is that the phenomenon of attraction becomes even stronger, becomes very, very strong, and so does the empowering feeling that is associated to it. And here and what happens with this kind of attraction is that, and all-empowering feeling is that here a certain magnetism appears, because this is a stake to create a certain magnetism, and to use that magnetism to prevent the darkness inside the person from venting out, yes, and to keep the negativity inside the person intact, and into the sickest possible form. And the sickest possible form of this magnetism, the magnetism of morbid attraction, the sickest possible form is the devotion through remission in Romanian, devotament prin remisiune. Devotion through remission being the main vibrating chord on this record, both emotion-wise and orchestration-wise. And this is probably the element that makes this record so unique, because orchestration-wise and lyrics-wise and emotion-wise, everything has to do with devotion through remission. To further explain it a little bit, this record, basically what it does is to ignite the flame of fear and to ignite the flame of dread, as that very flame is about to go out or to get extinguished. So you take that flame in the very moment when it extinguishes or it burns away, and you ignite it again in the very moment of its extinction. And basically the music in here does so until a hidden aspect of yourself starts to rise, the shadow self, if you want to call that hidden aspect like this. And what is being sought for in some sort of what is being sought for in here is some sort of a hidden culmination, where you as the listener can take all this darkness much inside yourself, where until the aura of dreadfulness speaks to you in so many ways. So yeah, you as a listener are encouraged and enabled to absorb all this darkness in huge quantities inside yourself until the aura of dreadfulness begins to speak and to talk to you in so many ways. And if you want to put it in a normal framework, from this point on, one can talk about visions in REM, in rapid eye movement, as the name of that famous band says. So one can talk about visions in REM states, about in between liminal stuff, you know, the kind of things that let us say normal people can access through meditation. So this is an alternative to that. But the main point in here is that these are the kind of guys that can formulate their own vision of darkness. These are experienced musicians who over time learned how to make the darkness their own, how to add their own inner flame to the darkness, and how to frame that darkness in a personal manner. That is, how to make it more of a signature sound, if you want, through some occult lens. So they learned how to make the darkness that we have just talked about, to turn it into a signature sound of their own through some personal occult lenses, and to nicely find a place for all these things into the world of the esoteric. And if you want to put it otherwise, they have learned how to use the darkness as their muse in a original fashion. Not in an original fashion, in an intelligent fashion, because here we are talking more about intelligence than about originality. And into this train of thought, we can actually quote some lyrics. If we take the first songs from the vampiric inbreeding, they say that this curse grows on you, it corrupts the circuit of blood, and it runs with hidden death engines, or something like that. I cannot see the lyrics right now because you are seeing them. Or in the song called Lost in Cemetery Gardens, they say that I lose myself in trance, and what have I become once I got lost into my own trance. Or on the song Got Mold, they say that you achieve the final pull beyond death, and that the secret kind of death is accessible at my hands. You know, this Got Mold could also be interpreted as some sort of ecological song about hunters and preys in the forest, but I do not want to interpret it into that way. I prefer to keep the song Got Mold shrouded in a metaphysical veil in the way in which Shape of Despair did on their first release. And to further quote some other lyrics to sustain these ideas, in the song Spectral Visitations, that they say that shadows deceived me and I have nothing left. The shadows have stolen everything from me. And finally into the song called Skin Forest, I suppose. Yes, Skin Forest. These are my favorite lyrics in here. They say that deep in this forest my fingers grasp to touch the forbidden pulsating fruit. What a terrible sight to behold, the mighty forbidden pulsating fruit, like a heart of darkness or something like that. So as you can see, extremely poetic constructions and an extremely poetic cover art, and an extremely poetic combination of green and silver and other things, and black and white by people who, I don't know who they are, but they are extremely talented in investing the right kind of atmosphere across all this release, because every little thing such as graphics counts in here and manages to construct brick by brick the message and the perfect atmosphere for a truly special release. And of course, along the music there are dark ambient and dark post-industrial sounds are added to the general death metal sound, and they are doing so in order to better fit the occult, evil, melodic vibe of the release, and in order to make the immersive journey even more venomous and rejuvenating by means of this newly refound hidden venom. But it's a venom, it's a life-creating kind of venom used in here. And as I said, if I were to use a word to describe this release, the perfect word to describe this release is not so much originality or innovation as it is intelligence. More than just creativity, it's intelligence, because these are let's say fully aware and fully professional musicians that are capable to work with nuanced understandings, in Romanian, care sunt capabili să lucreze cu înțelesuri foarte nuanțate, that are capable to work with nuanced understandings, and thus they are capable to reimagine the early Swedish death metal techniques, the early Swedish death metal techniques of Edge of Sanity and of Wombat, and they do so not in just any way, but along some core doom metal values, built on neo-brutalist settings, along some sneaking climatic bass riffs, that is, along bass riffs that know exactly how to build a fresh and stimulating or entertaining franchise for a very old genre, and along some guitar solos that always leave behind an inherent lasting impression with their acid-like distortions, you know. But again, the acid in here is fresh, an acid that behaves like a life enabler, an acid that behaves like a stimulator of articulations and of a driven, innovative flooding, an acid that behaves also like a driven, innovative flooding with long expected mirrors and other free forms of elevating curiosity. So to put it once again, what these guys are doing in here, they are going back to the year 1993 into the Swedish death metal, and they are combining Spectral Sorrows from Edge of Sanity with Internal Caustic Torments from Wombat. So if you put these two Swedish releases together and you add to them some avant-garde cinematic flavor and a special kind of sound, you get what our friends from Bucharest in here are doing. So yeah, sorry, they are combining again the Swedish death metal stuff from 1993, Internal Caustic Torments from Wombat, and Spectral Sorrows from Edge of Sanity, and they are managing to reimagine this kind of old Swedish death metal techniques and to reinvest them with an originality of their own. As I said, to repeat what I have just said, they are extremely trained, extremely cultivated musicians, fully professional musicians, fully aware musicians that are capable to work with some strange nuances that can be found on Internal Caustic Torments and on Spectral Sorrow, so they can exploit to the maximum and reinvent or reimagine this kind of strange nuances of the Swedish death metal scene from 1993, and they do this kind of reimagination along some core doom metal values, that are built on neo-brutalist settings, and along some sneaking climatic bass riffs, meaning bass riffs that know exactly how to build a fresh, stimulating, and as I said, very entertaining franchise for a very old genre. And last but not least, along some guitar solos that always know how to leave behind an inherent, and this is a key word, an inherent lasting impression by means of some acid-like distortions. And we are talking about an acid that is fresh, an acid that behaves like a life enabler, and also an acid that behaves like a stimulator for articulations, all kind of articulations, and also like a driven innovative flooding with mirrors, with long expected mirrors, and with other types of free forms of elevating curiosity. So basically, yes, rancid, vicious, jammed out riffs and beats spreading out of a fiendish void like tentacles, fluid tonalities, beautiful, naturally strong and sincere vocals. All of these things are converging into a sickening sound that stands for a cold and distant crossbreeding, I would say, of early Scandinavian death metal substances. So a cold and distant crossbreeding of some early Scandinavian death metal substances, of some doom metal extracts, of some cinematic hydrogenations, and of blackened death membranes and other seemingly forbidden forms of biological incubations. Yeah, cold and distant crossbreeding of early Scandinavian death metal structures, of doom metal extracts and insertions, and of some neo-noir cinematic hydrogenations, and of some blackened death metal membranes, all being boiled together into some sort of a forbidden biological incubations. And nevertheless, there are some, how should I say, some nice crunchy or brittle edges, both at the level of the guitars and of the vocal lines, and even along the narrative parts within the vocal lines, because in the Swedish tradition of 1993 there are a couple of dramatically narrated parts. If I remember correctly, on the second song called Lost in the Cemetery Gardens, you hear a lot of narration in there, and this kind of crunchy or brittle edges that you can find at the level of the vocal parts and at the level of the guitars are there to describe the human condition, I think. That's why they use brittle edges and brittle tonalities and crunchy edges at the level of guitars and vocals. They are doing things in this way to describe the human condition, and I'm making reference to the seventh and the last song called Dragged Through Existence, and they are describing the human conditions like an attempt to perfectly straighten a piece of paper that was squeezed previously So once you squeeze a piece of paper, I'm not going to do this thing with the cover in here, but once you squeeze a piece of paper, you try to perfectly straighten it back, but that piece of paper can never be reshaped to its original form. So this is how I would interpret this song, Dragged Through Existence, and how I would interpret the role of crunchy and brittle edges that the guitars and the vocals are using. So a little to summarize my ideas a little bit in here, what these guys are doing in here, is to let you know, or to show you that they know perfectly what is death metal, what the Swedish death metal in 1993 meant, and they know perfectly how death metal functions across and through and along all its intricacies and nuances, but still they prefer to put all this knowledge behind, in the background, and they show you that they possess all this knowledge in the background, and they prefer to bring to the forefront, or to push to the forefront, a lot of creative avant-garde and freshly intelligent innovations and freshly intelligent developments. So they are hugely skilled, hugely knowledgeable musicians, but all this demonstration of force in what concerns death metal is put somehow in the background, and they prefer to push in the forefront only creative developments and innovations, but creative developments and innovations that do not have too many things to do with creativity, as here we are talking about a novelty and about a freshness that is obtained through intelligence and through perfect mastery of both death metal techniques and death metal feelings and vibes and soulscapes and mindscapes, is through perfect mastery of those unconditioned and unconditionable death metal feelings and death metal soulscapes. And all is cooked or baked in such a way so as to be a full part of a successful, though hidden, cinematic and surreal trial. So yeah, basically this is one way in which you can reset or reintonate things in death metal, just like you reintonate a guitar. Not a single boring or uninteresting moment across all this release. Again, music-wise, it would be a 9.7, but considering the high quality of the art used in here, it will be a music-wise it would be a 9.5. But considering the high quality of the aesthetics used in here and the high degree with which that aesthetics contributes to the general concept and to the general feeling of the listener, the final mark in here would be a 9.7. 9.7 by international standards, not by Romanian standards. So extremely convincing vocal lines and not a single note played unprofessional. This was one hell of a pleasant surprise for me. Everything is real to the bone in here. Thank you so much for watching.